Hello everybody, Mannix here. It is time for a knife review on a new and improved old friend of mine. Feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly gun, knife, gear, flashlight, etc, etc videos. Support me on Patreon, link in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. Let's dive right into this. This is going to be on the Cold Steel Recon 1. So it happens to be the Tanto blade style plain edge, my favorites, and in the orange. The regular Recon one, if you're not familiar, is in black, but you can get these on various knife websites such as Blade HQ for around $125, $130. Apparently, this orange Recon one in the Tanto plain edge anyway retails at $190, $195, but the regular black version retails at $176.99. You're gonna be paying the extra $20, $25 or so if you want it in the orange. I don't see these on Cold Steel's official website, I just see them floating around on other knife retailers. What happens to be my favorite coloration, the orange and the black, of course, and it's my favorite blade style. It's one of my favorite knives ever. How could I have said no? If you're not familiar, these are the new Cold Steel Recon ones. With the S-35VN blade steel, they went through a couple of changes. The original ones were in AUS 8A back in, I think, 2011 those came out. Later, they upgraded the blade steel to CTS XHP, and now we're at S-35VN, which I'm going to say is an upgrade from there. And instead of the Tough X, or Teflon coating, that it used to have, now we have a diamond-like carbide DLC coating on here. Thank you so much. Very beautiful, very, very functional, very strong. Very durable coating right there. Weighs 5.2 ounces according to Cold Steel's official website. 5 3/8 inch long handle, 4-inch blade, making the overall length 9 3/8 inches. And just for giggles, let's just see what my scale says about the weight right here. It's saying 5.45 ounces. They're saying 5.2. Uh-oh, you sneaky devils, Cold Steel. They're not always right about their weight. It's about 5.5 ounces, a little over 5, let's just say. But that is a very good weight for what you are getting here. The 4-inch blade, the triad locking mechanism, full-on G10 handle scales. There are no liners in there whatsoever. It's just pure G10. It's actually surprisingly smooth for not having any liners. It's not the smoothest knife in the world. I mean, the combination of having no ball bearing system and no slicker surfaces such as steel liners or even aluminum liners, you'd think it would be a little bit slower. Then, of course, we have a lock-back style mechanism right here, which will slow things down even more. There's more tension, more pressure on there. But it's actually very fast. Again, not the fastest in the world, but for the amount of strength you are getting, that is completely adequate. Very adequate speed, fast enough, it's smooth enough, it's comfortable, locks up like a bank vault. One of the strongest locking mechanisms in the world still. It's up there. I know they just surpassed it with their Atlas lock. Supposedly that's even stronger than the Triad lock and probably even faster, but this is still an extremely strong locking mechanism. That integral stop pin right there in the combination with the lock back, out of this world. Extremely, extremely strong. The only disadvantage is that it's not the easiest or the most convenient to close one-handed. You can. I do it all the time because I got good with it, but it is slightly dangerous. You don't want to rock that blade forward if you don't really know what you're doing. It's shaped just so that the ricasso, I guess you could say, maybe the tang of the blade touches your index finger if you have it in this position, not the cutting edge, but you are getting very close right there. If you are going to do that style of closing method, I would just be very careful. Make sure you know what you're doing first. But that's what I do. Lockbacks in general are just not that convenient to close, or open for that matter, but they are strong. So I will take that price. You just get an insane amount of strength. These things are extremely, extremely strong. I think these can hold over 600 pounds or something. I can't even remember what it is, but lots of shock resistance here. It's an extremely, extremely strong folding knife. For this weight even, it's less than 6 ounces. So it's not a lightweight knife, but it's certainly not a heavy knife either, not by any means. Again, just pure G10 handle scales right here with no liners. We have an aluminum backspacer right here, which I believe also borrows that same DLC coating on the blade. It's beautiful. And we have tip-up carry, comes with a second pocket clip, so you can swap these screws out with these screws. The other set of screws on the other side of the handle scale right here, like you're seeing right here, are shorter than these screws. They won't go all the way through, I believe. I think these are just for show and also to protect the holes that the screws are in from dust, debris, grime, muck, etc. Who knows why those are there, but I like it. It's a nice clean look to the knife. Looks very proprietary. Very comfortable. I like these 2 finger choils right here. It's not the most extreme design ever, but it's certainly ergonomic enough. I do really like it. Again, it's not like super crazy or anything, but it's good looking and it is purposeful. I like this little curve right here for your thumb, index, and middle finger land right here. We have a big old guard, a good inch or so, lengthens it out even more without making the blade edge too long. And 4 inches on the nose for the blade. And you get that little extra reach right there if you hold it in this position. You can scooch down here if you want to just get a little bit more reach right there. This is actually comfortable enough. We do have a lanyard hole right there, as you can see. This would be good for chopping. And then you can scooch up here, use that guard to where your index finger would be placed. If you want to choke up on it, do some shaving work, get more control. Kind of crappy jimping right here, like a lot of Cold Steels. Unfortunately, there are cutouts in the G10 handle scales, but not in the lock bar. So your thumb kind of just slides over them. It's better than not having the jimping, I suppose, but it's certainly not that functional. Medium traction, I would say, on the G10. Lately, Cold Steel, the traction on their G10 has softened over the last couple years. I don't know the year offhand, but they used to have extremely aggressive G10. I actually really liked that. But they downgraded, let's just say, to this more medium traction that you're probably used to. Most knives that have G10 handle scales, they kind of feel like this, just medium traction. Why they did that, I don't know. I actually really liked the aggressive, super grippy G10, but at least this is more forgiving on your pocket. I will give it that. Speaking of pockets, pocket clip, I do like it. I like the stubby clips Cold Steel has. I don't know what it is. I actually kind of like them. Most pocket clips are usually around the halfway mark of the handle. This is all the way up here, scooched up maybe 1/3. It's actually designed okay. I like how it plateaus and then it pinches down. So there's a very clear, distinct area where it will be clipped to your pocket. It's on the tighter side, but it's not super tight like Cold Steel pocket clips used to be back in the day. They've been fixing that a little bit lately. Not as bad as they used to be. So it's fast, it's extremely strong, it's very ergonomic, it's slim. It's very slim too, a very, very slim knife for its strength. It's a very interesting combination we have right here. It's pretty lightweight, medium weight, I would say. Very slim for the amount of strength you're getting too. It is comfortable. I like it. I like thicker handles, honestly. I like them to be more hand-filling, but a lot of people I know prefer the slimmer knives. This will take up less space in your pocket at least, so that's a good thing. And yes, technically it will weigh less as well. And keeps costs down. How about that? It is completely ambidextrous, again, because we have a triad locking mechanism, any lockback style knife, dual thumb studs right here, and then a pocket clip can be swapped to the other side, technically the other pocket clip, but it's completely ambidextrous. This thumb stud is lopsided. I don't know why they do this, but you can swap it to the other side if you wish. You can just use it this way if you want, but it's not as exposed on the right as it is on the left by default. So you can take a flathead screwdriver right there, hold onto that with a pair of pliers or something, and then swap that sucker around if you wish to do so. I know some people who take out the thumb studs completely and then throw a zip tie on there or a piece of paracord or something and do a particular knot and then use this as a waveable knife. You can do that. Now let's talk about the business end right here, the S35VN blade steel. But first the shape. This is in the Tanto, but this also comes in the spear point as well as the clip point. The clip point easily is the most popular, but I happen to like Tantos. I think they're cool. And this is certainly going to be stronger than the clip point as far as the tip is concerned, as far as piercing is going to be affected. I like having the second tip there. It's good for impact cutting, and I do find it useful for utility tasks as well. These Tantos are not quite as useful as a typical clip or even a drop point blade, but they are fighting blades. Very strong tip right there. Again, very good for impact, cutting, gouging, twisting, prying. It's a fighting blade, but it can still be used for utility. I like having the second tip, again, for opening packages and utility tasks like that. Not much of a belly here, but I think it's compensated for having that tip. That is one of the many reasons I love the Americanized Tanto. S35VN is a miracle steel. It's one of my favorites. It's certainly going to be a lot more brittle than the AUS 8A that these guys used to have on, so it will shatter a little easier, but that's talking abuse of the knife. That's talking smacking it against concrete and cinder blocks and stuff like that. Yeah, it's going to shatter or snap easier than a softer blade steel will, but if you do not do things like that with your blade, you shouldn't have any problems, as long as you don't drop it on the concrete or something. I mean, it's not that brittle, but if you slam it against something like that, you might have problems. But that's kind of the price you get with a harder steel, meaning it will retain an edge for much, much longer. It's very good rust resistance, which is further assisted by this DLC coating right here, which is a very high-end coating, certainly miles above the Tough X they used to use. It looks beautiful, too. It's kind of like a matte finish almost, not super reflective or anything. It looks good. It's very gorgeous. Good-looking knife. And again, this is my favorite configuration. This color and this blade shape right here. It's already one of my favorite knives ever, and it's just set over the top by this style right here. Again, if you're willing to pay the extra $20, $25 for a colorized version, go for it. It's a great knife. Just very, very high edge retention on that S35VN. It's insanely high. You won't have to sharpen this very often. When you do have to resharpen this thing, it's going to be long nights because that's just kind of the price you get with those harder steels. If it takes longer to dull, it's going to take longer to sharpen. That's just kind of how that works. So it's extremely strong, it's slim, medium weight, it's fast, it's comfortable, it's good looking, I think. You got some variety with different blade shapes. What is not to like about this knife? I really, really like this thing. It's a little overkill for EDC. It's slightly big, it's slightly long, it's slightly too strong, as you could say, for most EDC tasks. But for a combat, martial, defensive, responsible civilian blade, or maybe if you're a police officer, law enforcement, even military, it is an absolute home run. There's nothing obviously wrong I can point out with these Recon 1s right here. They're all great. They're all amazing. There's nothing obnoxious, weird, or goofy about them. They carry very well, again, because of their slimness. I like the traction on here. I like how they're comfortable. They're really strong. We have a great blade steel now. The AUS-8A may have been better in some ways if you're just talking combat, just talking defense. Perhaps, but for every other task, pretty much, I think the S35VN wins, and it's certainly higher quality, higher end. In the aftermarket, you can get let's talk about the regular black version if you do go with that one, anywhere from like maybe 100 to 120. Sometimes you'll see these go down to 90 or so if you see a sale on some website like Amazon or something. Totally, totally worth it. Amazing, amazing knife. It's not super expensive. I mean, $100 is expensive for some people, but it's not, I mean, some knives go way up there, so I think this is worth every penny. Nothing obviously wrong with these things. I really, really like these knives. Always love the Recon 1s. I've had many, many of them over the years. This is my favorite version, not just because of the color, but I do like the S35VN and the DLC coating we now have too. Absolutely fantastic everything knife. A true defensive combat martial blade / pretty good EDC knife too. Yeah, it's a little bit big, but because it's kind of slim and it's not super heavy, I think that's totally manageable. It's a true everything knife. If you can only pick one knife, one folding knife that you could carry for the rest of your life, I'd probably pick something like this, the Cold Steel Recon 1.